Welcome to Chicago Arts. This is MartinJon, and I'll be your host. I got to sit down with Susan Kraut the other day and talk to her about her paintings and her upcoming show at Addington Gallery.
You know, I paint really, really, really slowly. There are layers and layers and layers. And, painting it's a physical, it's not the same as a photograph of this image. It's a physical thing. And the layers of paint and the way the light hits the surface of a painting and all that is, I think, is really important to me. My worry is when they're just reproduced an image, they just look like, still life, the most generic still life, and that's so not what I want. It's not like a photograph, which can be reproduced, but it's a handmade thing with its own materials. I think that's really interesting. It took me a long, you know how you paint for a long time and then after, it's years, you start to realize that which things are important to you. I don't think you can figure that out ahead of time. At least the way I paint, it's very intuitive. There's something I love and this looks great and this just engages me. And then over time, as you look at your work, so there is something that I have always needed, a really straight horizontal. That's why because for a while, I was doing interiors, and then I was sort of painting out the windows, and then I thought, well, maybe I'm really a landscape painter. And
You're a horizon painter.
My landscapes are all failures. I can do little studies, but I've tried to do large ones. There's something about that windowsill. It sounds, I seem to need it. I can't, and there's something that's, I think I really, in landscape painting, I always had trouble with the foreground. I like something really close that puts me in there. It's like I make these things that are always about life size, so that like you sort of feel their presence in a way before you go back to that space. So and I don't know why, but I am interested in something about that relationship, those sort of close, tactile things that are mine, really, that I'm touching and moving around, and then this other space and light that's out there in the world that I can't touch, but so I don't know. Actually, a friend who was looking in the studio asked me about that because I had started putting the decay, the berries have fallen off and the pear is starting to get bad spots on it. And I think there is something about painting is so, and more than more than a photograph. A photograph does it in a different way, but because of the time you spend, it holds something that I totally think they're about, sounds morbid, but about death, or about how fleeting life is.
Yeah.
I think that's, here's this little moment, and look at how intense and full of life these things are, just in this fraction of a second before it's all gone. I like that about painting. I think painting can address that, and that's a pretty real thing we're all dealing with in life, in a way. Yeah. Well, I think if it didn't, if you got to a point and you said, oh yeah, this is perfect, this is what I wanted, you would stop painting, because what would be the point of just reproducing something? It's like what holds you in the activity is that you don't quite know what you're after and what it's going to get to. And it's one, because my show actually opens in about a week and a half. This is really unusual that I'm still working on these paintings. I don't like that. I like finishing painting. I like having about 6 months to look at them to decide if they're really
works really.
Exactly, or is this what I was after, or so this is a little uncomfortable to put practically wet paintings in the show.